Tawazani, thank you for those who've been waiting. Tagoza Tandisiwe, Mpumelelo, Remo. So tribe, it's always beautiful um, to know, read, and say where you are tuning live from. So just pretty please kindly let us know where you are tuning live from. As before we just even get into our topics. So as we're waiting for people to come in, let me say this. So today I went to go get my eyebrows waxed, and so this lady says to me, "You're Coco. I've never seen you with like your hair like this, because you're always so what is it, 10? Your hair's always on point." I laughed and I said, "It means you haven't seen me for a while, or I come here when my hair is always on point, because I do keep my hair natural, and it's really, I want an afro, but those who have an afro know how challenging it is, to keep natural hair going. So let's see. Sabelo is in Nairobi, and then Tibang in Rosebank. We've got Makala, Mulobedwa wa Reshu, Mlozi. Yes. Nelly is from. Where are you from? I'm saying. Oh, we am saying. Lungi, this is your topic. So Lungi, a few weeks ago, sent me a list of topics that she wants me to answer. So some are topics that I know I can go straight into it, like today's topic, but some wants me to really think. So when I'm teaching, I can be able to simplify. But this topic on death and mourning in African spirituality has been one many have asked me to speak about. Actually, it's one of the topics that I was invited for my first show on the Fresh Breakfast on Metro FM. And from that, they were like, "Hey, Gogo, you must come. Gogo, we need you come." And they used to call it a monthly consult with Gogo Dineo. So yeah, because I was speaking about the importance and the significance of things. So as per usual, tribe, so you can comment as I do the teachings and the sharing. But then afterwards, I would open up for questions. So don't ask questions as I go, because it becomes quite destructive. So just hold on to your questions, and then you can bring them up later. I hope that's clear, because it makes me easier, for my thought and thinking process. I sniff la samba con. Oh, we've got Lesego from Cosmo City. Hi, I think Lesego ko Kerekeng, right? Nomvula from Kabeja. Nomakawe from Tembisa. Oh, right? Aqoqe ngoqoqo. On that one delay. The clicks are beautiful. Matontala from Atteridgeville, Setu from Mdeni, that's in Soweto, Molo Stembile, Molo, no, Tando, and then Figile is here. So I wanted to actually invite Nkulu Mkasha to come. Let me check if he's coming, because Nkulu also knows a lot of Isintu, and he can bring some other insights to help us unpack and enrich in the conversation. Baby, are you gonna come? Are you coming? Yeah. Please bring a chair. So Mkulu is gonna join us. So today we're having a juyu, right? As I said, Mkulu, it's like, invite me, tell me, come, but sometimes we are seven zepsu. Then when he does, then I hold the streams down on my own. So it's really good. Remember, Mkulu does speak English, but when he gets into the teacher mode, lejos lakhe livelelengene kwisintu likhulume nje isintu, and I will summarize some of the things, but he does sometimes then cover most of it. But it's interesting to hear Mkulu's insights, especially from the Nguni perspective. So please remember that the teachings that we give are just based on our own experiences and our understanding of issues of African spirituality. It's not facts, it's not completely facts, it's not absolute, it's not cast in stone. So take what feels right and makes sense for you. And let me begin as we're waiting for Mkulu and say, Guti, what is culture? And Lungile, you asked this, what is culture, what is spirituality, what is tradition? Spirituality is the essence of who we are, spirit. So we are umoya before we are inyama. So we are spirit before we are a physical body. So we are a multidimensional being. We have multidimensional body, multi bodies. That means we've got the physical, we've got the emotional, we've got the mental, and then we've got the spirit, right? So the emotional and the mental is connected to what we call the light body, which is our soul. Then there is spirit. So the soul and the spirit are not the same thing. The spirit is the essence of who we are. It's the God's energy force inside us, whereas the soul is the human element of us, right? Our desires, our aspirations, our emotions and our feelings, our thought patterns. But the spirit is the pure essence of us, the purity, that which you are made in the image and likeness of Creator is spirit. Then we've got what we call traditions and culture. So culture is, in simplicity, is a way of life, right? It's a way of life for a group of people, for a family, for a community, for a tribe, for a clan, for a nation. And a way of life always evolves, right? So because spirit is dynamic, it understands that things change with times, yet we do not mess with the essence. So the core essentials, that's what I mean by essence. We do not change the core essentials, because changing them, it's no longer spirit, it becomes something else. So I always give an example, which ukupahla is an important aspect of us connecting to our spirit and our guides, our guardians, and our ancestors. But how we patha evolves to make sure that it meets our current culture. So part of our way of life right now is that we don't all live in big pieces of land where we can have a separate space altogether detached from our house where we speak to our ancestors. Some of us stay in a four-roomed house with our parents and our families. Some of us rent spaces, some of us stay in apartments. So we can't do those spaces as we did when our ancestors had the land. Yeah, no Tumukhona. I think Kutumi knew that you are coming today. Chakazan, guys, let's welcome Mkulum Kasha is here. Yeah. Let's see how we turn this. Okay, you need to come this. The light is better this side.
Okay.
James Ingenza it's stream, Gok. What's wrong? James? Tell us, James. No, Ngenzi stream go 8. Please next time call me before you send me a text. Because manje so to step stream angisazi nokuthi scoop. Okay, sharp. So I was sorry, the institute was calling me. Angazi ukuthi labantu abazi ukuthi ngo-8 ngisemsebenzini ngisasebenza. Apologies for there was a bit of a freeze because when my phones are connected to my laptop, baby, come inside. Yeah. Man, why is the lighting not liking you? Baby, you are more handsome like this than this lighting. This lighting is not doing justice to my husband. How handsome one.
Sanibonani Thokozani eyidala ngemgcini Thokoza siyabingelela Thokozani bantu abadala Thokoza.
Thank you, baby, for being here. So we are talking about death and mourning in African spirituality, as I was explaining to you when you came in. So I was explaining, Uguti, whatever that we're teaching, it doesn't mean our truth overrides what people know, overrides family practices, overrides family rites of passages. So we are not here to dictate, but we are here to share from what we know. And we are here to also demystify certain stereotypes and myths around mourning and death in African spirituality. From our own experiences, as people who are born in certain families, Mkulu is born in a traditional family, and Mkulu is very much invested in Nguni culture and knows a lot about that. Mina, I'm mixed masala. I've got like ngichakalaka nje, my, as I always say that from my maternal side, my grandfather Kimulobedu, so I was raised by my maternal side. My grandmother is Indian, and yeah, so that's why this hairline is our Indian bloodline. And my paternal side is Zulu, Pedi, Xhosa, Swati, yeah, the mix. So you could see that I come from a very diverse, Chakalaka family. So we, as I was speaking about what culture is a way of life, how Nandip, oh Siabo, Sister Kala, you must come to this. Look at the donation, 200 threads. Mkulu must come. You've got a woza, baby. So and we haven't even gotten into it, and people are saying, hey, Bishop Prof Q.
Prof.
Yeah. Salute. Thank you for joining, Prof. So I was speaking about culture being a way of life, and that culture evolves, but we do not change the core element of things, right? The core essence of spirituality, we don't change, because as much as we can be innovative, we innovate around the core, because the core is that which holds us together, and that holds our human self and our human self in relation to the spirit world. So that's very important for us to understand, that even though we can be innovative, there still needs to be reverence, meaning respect towards the core. Because once we move away from the core, then we become lost and we have become distorted, not innovative. So innovation is changing for better, but distortion is really misinterpretation and moving away from how things need to be. So distortion has no respect and has disregard, and distortion is selfish. It's just about me and my needs in that current moment. So let's speak about death in African spirituality and what death is. So as Africans, life does not end; it just continues. That's why we don't say "muntu file." That's like that's not the terms we used to use. We use them now because we've lost also our language around things. We sort agaseko, uban agaseko, and or Inkosi Koteme, as a way of actually saying that this person has now transitioned. They've transitioned from the physical into the spiritual world. So because death for us was actually entering the gates of heaven, a new state where we are actually vibrating much higher, because we are now one with the spirit of our ancestors. We are now one with the masters. We are now one with the guardians, angels, and creator. So as Africans, we always would know that actually by passing on, transitioning was one of the most aspired things. So we would aspire to transition, because to transition meant eternal life. It meant that we were then, our memories, our presence will not cease to exist, because our bodies are no longer in existence. So we would live our lives to ensure that we do cross over and become an ancestor. So we always lived a life full of character, not reputation. Remember, reputation is how people perceive you and how people experience you. But your character are those characteristics that really are your principles and your norms that inform how you behave and how you carry yourself. They are embodiments. So I will give you an example. So a reputation of Coco Dineo is that Coco Dineo is Isangoma that does not do drama. That's a reputation. But my character is that, as Udineo, is that truth and transparency are very important to me. So I can be caught up in drama, but it doesn't take away that I'm a truthful and integrable person, if that makes any sense. Because sometimes we focus so much on reputations, and then we get trapped in people pleasing than genuinely living our lives. Because as human beings, we are here to experience what it's like to be in a human body. And through our experiences in the human body, we are bound to make mistakes, because these are the lessons that God wants us to learn to evolve and become better versions, because we are physical expressions of God. That's why we've incarnated in the physical body. So as Africans, we knew that death was a transition, it was not the end. And that's why burial rites and rites of passages were very important within African spirituality, because we understood that we needed to help the physical body rest. So we don't actually say, may your soul rest in peace. It's the body that rests, because once you pass on, your soul is still alive. Right? Your soul is still alive, and then it gets into the other side. And then the soul then looks at the life in which you have lived. And if it's worthy for you, for the spirit to then, transition to the other side. That's why some people come back. That's why some of us sinamadlozi, singenwe idlozi. It's that soul that has an incomplete mission that needs to be fulfilled. So let's not be fooled that we are actually just called to be healers. That's why healing, some of the healing you are called to do, is to break certain generational pathologies, patterns, and curses and traumas, because somebody who lived their life might have been the inflictor of those pains and traumas and curses, or might have actually not completed the mission that they have come to serve here. So you get on the other side, and when you get on the other side, your movie and stuff is showed, because this is how you've lived your life. And then you are judged to see if you can go and return back, your spirit can go return back to source. Personally, I don't believe there is, I don't believe that there's hell or punishment. I feel like if you watch the series, Lucifer actually shows clearly what hell is. Hell is your own guilt. It's your own things that you have done. You get trapped in the things that you have done. So rituals are also important, because they help us. So we need to perform rituals to then help the soul transition. So the transitioning of the soul then, detaches and then allows for the spirit to get to the other side. I hope people are following me here. So as you now understand very clearly that we don't die, we transform. Science tells us that energy doesn't die, it just transforms. But in the transformation, it's determined by how you have also lived, and also the processes that your family, or the rites of passages that your family do. So you are not a lost soul. You are not a ghost hunting people, because that's why we have rites of passage for people who have died tragically, who have died unfortunately, who have died suddenly. Kuthiwa kuyolandwa umoya, right? Because then uzozungeza, it will just hover around. Because remember, when a sudden death occurs, there is a shock and a trauma in the soul and in the body in terms of that detachment. So sometimes it's not because people are doing things to you, it's because there has not been proper rites of passage that have been facilitated by the family. Like when somebody has died endleleni, abalandi umoya womuntu. So those things are very important, because we then need to be able to allow the soul to understand it no longer exists. It does not have a physical body to exist in, so it can't go haunting for a body, a home, because the home of the body, the home of the soul is our physical bodies. So if we don't do those rites of passages, then it becomes a problem. So we're going to start by we can start about what happens when death occurs and why we do certain things. And I'm going to say to you here, tribe members, that some of these mourning rituals and death rituals are also Western. We got colonized, so some of them are not purely African. I will give you one example. Wearing of black clothes, it's not an African thing. Right? We wouldn't, if you watch like movies Gashaga, you never saw them change and wear black clothes and say wearing black clothes. Actually, even in the West, in the Victorian era, they never used to wear black clothes, because black material was expensive. So now think about yourself, right? If black is expensive, it means black is gold. It means black is royalty. So only a few would wear that, whereas white, white material was easy. So people would go to funerals with white and all of those things because it was more affordable. Because remember, in those times, for a material to be turned into color, it needed to be dyed, and you needed to have money to actually whatever that was a things, whether that was cows or cattle that was used, because you needed to buy color and really dye the clothes. So it means that it was actually black was a premium color. It was an exclusive color. Some would also do purple as royalty, because the royals would always want to show up and be differently than the rest of us. So I just wanted to say one of those things, that we adopted the black clothing. It is not our clothing. However, it doesn't mean awuzile. You don't need to wear black. It doesn't mean awuzile. So, baby, you want to speak about the importance of zila, or what happens when somebody dies in the family? What are the things we need to observe?
I think I can just touch into both.
Okay.
Thokozani tribe, Thokozani bantu abadala. Yeah. The importance of ukuzila kuba ukuthi sizila ngoba sizwe ubuhlungu, and we need to really work with lobo buhlungu lobe sibuzwile, or njengoba silahlekelwe ekhaya silekelela imizimba yethu, silekelela our emotions, so that we can be able to be in touch with lokho kusenzakalele, ukuthi lokho kusehlakalele sikwazi ukuthi sihlale sizinze, sizokwazi ukuthi mekufanele sikhale sizokwazi ukuthi sihlale kulesi sikhathi lesi sokuzila, sho ukuthi ukudlulisa lobuhlungu lobesambe sabuzwa, and is to also acknowledge ukuthi ilunga lalomndeni ebelisinalo alisekho, and manje njengoba lingasekho, how are we now going to survive, or how are we now going to live without lo muntu? Uyabona, ukuzila is to also allow yourself to be in touch, or to really let yourself understand ukuthi njengoba ngasekho angeke usambona la bekahleli khona, angeke usakwazi ukuxoxa naye physically and all that, and ukulekelela wena uku-accepta, so that you can be able to let go, because also ukuzila kusilekelela ukuthi in terms of yena lo muntu ondlulile, ukuthi simvumele ukuthi akwazi ukudlulela kuleli lizayo. Abantu abadala njengoba basho ukuthi udlula uya kwelizayo, so that whatever it is le ebesixhumanisa naye singamenzi ukuthi angakwazi ukudlulela emathongeni noma emadlozini. Then is to allow lezo zinto. That is why also there's certain rituals ezenziwayo, there's certain things ekuthiwa mesizilile asizenzi and all that, so that si-allowe umzimba and our spirit and also our minds, so that everything ikwazi ukusinka, ungazitholi after boma 10 years khani usakhalela lo muntu lo owahamba wandlula 10 years ago. Ukuyayibona lento
Baby, that was powerful. I'm just holding you because I want to translate before we get to the rituals. So in summary, I know you mixed English and Zulu, but for some of the tribe members who are in the diaspora, that was really powerful. In summary, we're going to mourning rites as Africans because we need to come to the acceptance that one of us is no more. It's one. Number two, it also creates a physical detachment between us and the deceased, but it also helps the deceased know that they're no longer part of this family in the physical. Number three is so that we can go through emotional, psychological, and spiritual healing. So we are not in denial of the loss of our loved ones. So there is a psychological and an emotional healing, around the mourning process, because therefore we don't know how to be in pain now. We just quickly move on, and then it hits us years later, and then we realize that we are no longer, one with our loved ones. So that was really powerful. That's why I needed to interpret it. If you guys, you need to learn Zulu, because how you said it in Zulu was amazing. It gave me goosebumps. Yo, baby. I think I need to prepare some Kulu to come to these teachings. Come all the time.
Yeah, njengoba asho ugogo ukuthi kuyasilekelela ukudlulisa and also ukuthi sizokwazi ukuthi nathi siphole ngabo, and nokuthi sikwazi ukuxhumanisa futhi umndeni ukuthi njengoba esedlulile lo muntu lo is also ukuthi njengomndeni ukuthi siqhubeka kanjani ngiyabo, ngoba ngesinye isikhathi kuye ukuthi kudlule umuntu omdala ekhaya obokuyena ophethe izinto, and then now esisizila sihlala kuthiwa asiye endaweni ethize. Sometimes it's not only just by not going there, but it's to say akuyikho into ezokudinga ukuthi uphume ekhaya, therefore lesi sikhathi sizosebenzisa ukuthi mengabe kukhona umuntu ekufanele ebekwe ukuthi okay, this is gonna be our next leader, mhlambe kundlule ubaba or kundlule umkhulu ekhaya or kundlule umuntu obokuyena bekaphahla bekaphethe izinto, then those are the times ezinikwa umndeni ukuthi-ke abakwazi ukuthi siziqoqe, sikwazi ukuthi sizoqoka abantu-ke who is going to now lead the family in the absence of this person that has passed on. Uyabo, so to say ukuthi now sizilungisa kanjani sisonke, and then sizokwazi ukuthi now going forward who do we refer ezinye izinto ebezenziwa umuntu omdala ekhaya.
Yeah, no, you've said it amazingly well. So we are not allowed to do certain things as a family because that mourning time is also about regrouping and restructuring the family dynamics, especially when an elder has passed on. Because we know how elders are important in terms of carrying certain rituals and leading in facilitating certain processes, even in decision making. So when one of our elders passes on, the family system needs to refigure and change. The hierarchy has now changed. And we as the living needs to find how do we really refigure ourselves, because now we don't have this person. Because it's also the coming together. This way also helps that it brings the family back together. And we know in the current modern times, families, they see the West. What we see at funerals or during family battles, it's actually what was waiting to happen. It's just that it's kind of like you see, because now I'm thinking in Zulu, but it's a storm that was waiting to explode. So it's not because of a death of a loved one. It's because there were already issues that were not spoken about or dealt with. Then during the death of somebody, especially when somebody's an elder, like a father of a home or a grandmother or a mother. So then, because now there's no one who's going to also be there's no one who can say you can't work like this. So we also feel like it's a time to settle our scores during the death of a family member. But mourning requires us to actually bring ourselves together to ourselves and see how do we reshape the family. So that's very important. And psychologically, actually, it's also been proven that when you are going through because when as much as death is a transitioning, and we all know it's going to happen someday to people we love, but it is still traumatic. It is still very painful. Even when somebody we knew they've gone, they're old, because you will now never ever have a physical interaction with them like this, So it is a traumatic experience to lose a loved one. So therefore, psychologically, it's also been shown there has been benefits when you are in community, when you have people there with you, because on your own, you're gonna go out of a spiral. There's a lot that happens in your headspace. What about me? What's gonna happen to me? But when you are in community, and that's why one of the things that is important are some of the things we used to do. We don't do them so much, and I'll tell you that it's because of innovation. Right? Cell phones. So remember, immediately when there was a death, we will smear the windows with ash. That was a communication portal. When we smear the windows with ash, we were communicating to the community that we are indicating that one of us is gone, right? People don't do it so much because we've got cell phones. Immediately that was death, then we can just call and we've got WhatsApp groups where we can inform people. So it was primarily to serve as a communication tool. And we also lived quite far away from each other. So when people would pass by, somebody would know how something has happened, right? In that family, So when they're coming in, they know that they can't just come in as usual. There's a way in which they need to acknowledge the current reality of that family. So I spoke about the smearing of ashes. What are some of the things, babes, that people need to, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is the important one. Now izinto ezenziwayo, okay, it's just there's no noise. There's no what's this? No radio, no TV, no in lezo zinto lezo ezenziwayo ukuthi we don't play in noise ekhaya or TV or radio akunamsindo ongako odingakalayo. I'm just thinking at the top of my head what are the other things that
We'd put the mattress on the floor.
Yeah.
We would dress differently, because again, that's another way of communicating to the community, but also starting to help our psychology to adjust and comes to the reality of we've lost a loved one. So, we'll wear umhlonipho, abanye bathi don't touch. That basically says that even when somebody meets you, they will actually engage with you with consideration that you've just lost a loved one. So even if there was a argument you had with the person and they're trying to settle a score, they will know that you are not in the right kind of frame mind to be engaging in complex, difficult conversations, situations, experiences. So it was a way of saying, step back. Right now, I have lost someone. I am not myself, because a part of me has died. Because losing someone, every time someone dies, a part of you dies, because there's a connection spiritually, emotional, in all forms, in all your bodies as a human being, you are connected to that person. And with the putting down of the mattress, my understanding is that Velek Dala, we never had mattresses. But somewhat, we are also now saying to ourselves, lo muntu sesinethonga ke manje. So we put it on as a way of grounding, because the ground is quite, putting yourself on the floor is to ground, is to be grounded and be earth. So it's to really be on earth, because there's no time for us kutama papu ayehle. You see, there's no way you can have a violent, rigorous argument with somebody when you are sitting down. You need to stand up to be charged. So that as well was a way of saying that we are now grounded. So the whole reconfiguration of the family and the house set up, it's a way of us embodying this new that's emerging. It's a physical embodiment of a newness that's emerging, because at death, it's about walking a path anew, because somebody we've known is no longer, and also moves away from self-indulgence at that time. I mean, who wants to be looking in the mirror, every day when they wake up and do those things and watch the news? You detach from the external noise, so you could actually be one with the loss that you've just experienced. Should we open for questions?
Yeah.
Let's open for questions. It feels like this is going to have a part 2, because we haven't even gotten to burial. Maybe it will come. We haven't even gotten to the significance of what happens after the death. So Nandipa, thank you so much, Tabeng, for the contributions. Guys, you can, if you are tuning in on YouTube, what you could do is you can give us a super sticker. You can see a super sticker as a donation to the work that we do, or you can also buy a super chat. So a super chat means that it brings your questions to the top. Okay. I just exit full screen. I made full screen. I was trying to exit that. So we'll take some of your questions. Lungile, I hope this topic is becoming what you were seeking, right? Okay, let's hear what Tendang. I'm not sure if it's a question. We bury and move on these days. Nje Dala and Leo pain isa bulala. Yes, I mean, we could also say that's why there is a lot of most of us with mental health problems now of late. People are feeling depressed, people are feeling some sad, with no, like, I'm just deeply sad, because besides other traumas, there's this that we have not, and there was no way where people, it's just like just recently over the past few decades where we stopped people from crying. Crying was part of it, because we would actually, when we walk in and when we see people, would cry, and the families would be there, right, to abazusikhuthaza, to offer their condolences, and music and prayers were an incremental part of helping the family be soothed. Because remember, trauma creates dysregulation in our nervous system. So music is one way in which we find healing. Messages of hope is one way we find healings, and having the community there is because the family who've lost their loved ones, especially the immediate family, they're not allowed to be cooking and touching things. You are not in your right frame of mind. You just lost a loved one. You just lost your husband. You want to go cook chicken. You are going to put jig in the chicken instead of salt or vinegar. You'll put jig in the beetroot, thinking because your mind is not functional. Something has gone. There is this thing that is lost. So I'm saying this to us, especially as this modern generation, where we think we can just carry on and do things as usual. It's a way in which we are actually denying what we've been through. You are welcome to say, send some questions. So while we wait for questions, let me say some of the things. So there's that, and then there's during the funeral, right? So why is it that when somebody leaves, we have to speak to them? Again, is to help the body and the soul no longer come and want to be part of our lives. We don't speak to the soul of our ancestors, we speak to the spirit. The soul is still very much a part of the body. So we are allowing the soul and the body to know that it no longer has a role in this family, and it needs to go be where we bury the body. And then after we bury the body, we do rites of passages, because we speak to the spirit, not the body. The body is dead. I've always said that we never went and spoke to the ancestors at the gravesites. That's not what we did. We do it now because of our current circumstances and our realities. So this is what would happen. So Mpo is asking, cremation and burial just the same? No, actually, cremation in other African cultures, even in West African, was seen as a punishment. Burning was seen as a punishment because there were different burials that were done depending on the kind of life. So even somebody's funeral would be a celebration of the life that they've lived. But remember the respect. It needs to still be respectful, because as much as we can say, yeah, and we do certain things, there are loved ones who loved him irrespective of their lifestyle, and they would want. So we need to also be considerate as Abo, but after tears, Abo as Skim Sam, those type of, tribe, the external tribe, be mindful of the immediate tribe. So even as you try and do things, the core family needs to be considered during their time of loss. It's easy for say, yeah, but that's how they live their life. But maybe that's how they live their life with you or with the world, but in the family, they lived a different life. So that's why we go to do that, because we ask, how is it gonna work? And all of those things. So it's, I would say for those, because where we are at and things, and people do request cremation, but I know one person who we needed to do so much before their initiation process, because they cremated a loved one. So what I can say is that when there is cremation or it's on somebody else's will, phahla labo ayakubo. Because remember, the spirit is transitioning to return back to the spirit world. So it needs to be met by their council of ancestors, their council of elders. So when we just do things, we need to say, Nina bokoko na bomkhulu, this Udinewo requested nasi, besitting ngamangali, isicelo, because yes, it is important to respect the wishes of the deceased, but we need to also be mindful. We don't want the deceased to be trapped in the world of the living, because we didn't respect the world in which they're going into. So that's why sikuluma, when you've seen in the funerals where they would speak, because it's not only speaking to the body, but it's also making an announcement to the ancestors that may you welcome your loved ones. So when it's not with everyone, normally the slaughtering happens, Angisho baby, if it's umnumzana or umama sekai, right, an elder. Yes.
Yeah, bekuwumnumzana womuzi kuthiwe kuzohlatshwa inkomo ephelezela umnomzana womuzi noma umama womuzi. Then yebo kuyahlukahlukana ngey'ndawo ngoba ngeke ngithi amaZulu ngoba abanye mhlawumbe abakwenzi, abanye bayenza ngenye indlela, and angeke ngithi everybody, abanye bahamba balandelela iy'ndlela
No, but
ezahlukahlukene.
in most
Yeah.
cultures, even Ikaya, we would do that.
Oh.
When my grandfather passed, we had to slaughter a cow. But I know that before you slaughter a cow, there has to be also a goat offering, or with
Yeah.
my family, we did sheep during the week. Ngoba kuthiwa inkomo iphelezelwa
Inkomo
ihamba nenyamazana. So we did that. And then I've seen people, they like, then what do we do with the cow skin? It goes, the reason we've got blankets over amabogisi is because people would not have enough resources for a cow. So that's what it stands, because that awufakwi as in the blanket board, we would put then cover, because they say that cow and the smell will indicate to the one who's passed on to say, now is time, we are going home. And it's also an offering to the ancestors on the other side, saying, oh, here's one of our own. And please, when nihlaba it language, because certain things is better uhlaba. So when we're making an offering, it's very important in those offerings that you speak uyayikhulumisa, because we asibulali siyahlaba, there's a distinctive difference. So iyakhulunyiswa ukuthi nayi inkomo baba eyakho eyokuphelezela ezweni lamathongo. So it's very important, kiye kgomo ntate e tlo felehetsang, here is this offering, grandmother, grandfather, father, so that will accompany you to the land of your ancestors. So you don't just say we did it, because yes, it's going to be consumed, but you don't say you just did it. There has to be a ritual that is performed. And if you don't know, when somebody dies, because sometimes, especially when people feel like they don't know what to do, even Emandulo, when it's under mysterious circumstances, they will still consult to see, because guys, you also need to understand ukuthi isdumbu siyasetshenzwa, because there are people who tamper with people's bodies. This is where ukuthwebulwa kwabantu or ukuthwala kwabantu happens, especially if somebody's been prominent. We see it with kings, we see it with prominent people in society. Even their burial would be quite slightly different. Some people will say, very early in the morning, and only the family will accompany them to there, because there are rites of passages that are also done, and we're not going to go speak in details about those things, because those ones are sacred, right? The ones that we've shared right now are for your education, but other ones of like I would say, one, if somebody died in an incident or an accident or in a tragedy, you need to be able ningahambi one by one, you are all dying around, around the same age with the same thing. You need to go and make sure ukuthi iyavalwa. I feel that's your.
Yeah, no, kuyahamba kuyohlolwa ukuthi kwenzakalani, bese ke ihambe ivalwe ingozi, ukuthi iy'ngane zala ekhaya zingahambi ngengozi efanayo, yabo, zingahambi nazo zilandelana ngengozi eyi-one. Ukuyayibona abanye uthola ukuthi bahambe ngesikhali, bahambe kuvalwe isimo sesikhali, ukuthi asingaphinde lesi sikhali siyothatha omunye phakathi kwaleli khaya. Uyabona, yizo izinto ezihamba zenzelwa ukuthi kungaphinde kwenzakale isimo esingemnandi la ekhaya, ukuthi umuntu uhamba saleni, unlike abantu abagulile njani. Yebo, lokho kuyazwakala bese bekhulile bebabadala, uyabona lokho, kodwa ingozi yona iyahamba ukuthi ivalwe ukuthi engaphinde yenzakale ekhaya.
Yeah. So that one, it's a must. Chosan Matonga, are we still observing the rituals as we are taught by Abu Koko and Abu Mkulu? We cut our hair, we cleanse, women wear black toque, and men wear small black on the cloth. Yes, some people still do, some don't. Some people stopped it because every time they did it, it felt like they were opening Isifo again. So be clear on that. But the cutting of the hair is also, it's about new life. Right? Some people don't cut the whole hair anymore. They will cut just a little bit as a symbol of that. So like I'm saying, things evolve. Understand the essence and then do so. So I will have to say, Guti, Tina, sitisa izangoma azili. So meaning that we can't then wear and sit on mattresses and all of those things. But ukzilo kubalulekile, it's in the heart because people still do shenanigans while they're wearing their black mourning clothes. Utlo ba re motho o na le makgome, because makgome is when you are actually, being intimate with somebody who just lost a loved one. And that creates a little bit of a havoc there. And that's something for you to be worried about. So, and it's important for cleansings to happen. And there's different types of cleansings that occur at different times, depending who has passed on. With umama no baba or ugogo nomkhulu, normally there will be amakharaf, right? The 10 days, we say it's the 10 days, after the 10 days where they wash the amakharaf, and then some in Lugo, and then after a year, so abanye bangayenza umsebenzi ukubuyisa amadlozi ekhaya. So there's different ones depending on who's passed on. And also, when there's been too many deaths, some people don't wait too long to do the cleansing, because then there's a big cleansing ceremony where we all get cleansed. But it's important, guys, let me note this. Please, when you come back from the cemetery, do look for the alu and wash your hands and sprinkle yourself with the water, because ematuneni, it's a roving ground and energy, and bantu bayaganga la ngaphandle. People go basebenza amathuna abogogo nabomkhulu benu and do things to them, and when ogogo nabomkhulu awazi ukuthi kanti balisebenzile bathatha isithunzi lapha. So there's a whole lot of things that are happening. So yes, that's that question. Let's go to the other question. Togoza Kokonomkul advise us about the kids during mourning, because I think Naba affected very much so. I'll share my own experience. When my grandfather passed away, we got neglected and we were told that we are not allowed to go to the cemetery. And I feel like sometimes certain traditional and cultural practices are quite biased, because even up to now, he knows I still haven't come to the acceptance of my grandfather's passing, because I didn't see him. I saw him going to school. I was told he's gone. Ganjani. So burying someone is also a form of closure. So you need to be able to really, especially the kids who were, younger kids if it's their parent or their uncle. So find somebody, a kaya, who can really also check on the kids. And yes, allow the kids to go and have closure too, the same way you're going to have closure.
And be open to the kids also. Ukubatshela ukuthi kwenzakaleni, and abanye bayahletshelwa bebasasebancane kakhulu ukuthi uyamuhlebela umntwana ukuthi umkhulu akasekho noma ugogo akasekho, ukuthi umntwana uzovuka as much as yebo angeke akuzwe physical ukuthi ukuzwa ukuthi njengoba ukhuluma naye, but kunento yena ubuyena bakhe, the spirit sakhe sizokwazi ukuthi mengasambona ugogo kunento engatshelwa yena ugogo ngathi akasekho, umkhulu akasekho, ukuthi bangahamba abantwana, ngoba abanye bayahluka ukuthi abanye kwenzeka ukuthi bayahamba bayongcwaba babuya bashiya umntwana, kwadingakala ukuthi bamthathele umntwana bambuyisele khona le babeyongcwaba khona njengoba bamshila, ukuthi bayobika ayobona ukuthi umkhulu usale kuphi, umkhulu kwenzakaleni, ngoba abanye bayagula, nibuye ekhaya umntwana uyagula akaloni ngoba yini akayitholanga inclusion.
Yeah, that's true. So Mkulu was saying, especially for children who still don't have the language and they don't understand certain things, probably under 3. From 3, kids are smart. They have the language, some even from 2. But whisper and then do be honest. Don't say, no, Mkulu is coming, or Gogo or Papa is coming. No, this is what has happened, They're not here, they're gone, and this is what it means. Because as difficult as it is, it's rather you become truthful than lie to them, because that will be more traumatic than telling the truth. And allow for them to feel the pain. If they're crying, allow them and say, I understand it hurts, and it's okay. Kokorom, could you please touch on the importance of umkapi ritual prior to the funeral? I'm streaming a bit behind. Umkapi ritual. Am I reading it? Do you know about umkapi ritual? Yeah, maybe it's you. I'm also not aware of that. Oh, I'm not. Gogo, please.
Mhlawumbe izinto ahamba nazo akasicacisele ukuthi singaqageli.
No, it's not only the offering. The cow offering is not only for the head of the house. It's for the mother and the father, because both the mother and the father are seen as the elders of the home. Not when it's children, when it's an adult child who has their own family. Yes, but not when it's the children. Okay. What about death by suicide? What are the implications in terms of transitioning? So there are rituals. I think if you if you watch Umkoka, there was a bit of controversy, but what they were really depicting is that when somebody dies under those circumstances is the most unfortunate and most one of the most painful deaths. There are things that needs to be done that your family see it as umkoka, right? Because it's unnatural. It's unnatural. So there would have to be unnatural processes immediately when you get there, and also during the burial, the person doesn't go. So if we are burying in the yard, they won't go inside the yard. They will pass by. It's the same with an accident. It's the same with brutal circumstances where somebody has passed. Abangena endlini. They don't go inside because they let umkhokha leyo nto. Oh, Mpochani, umamncane wethu.
Thokoza.
Sabonga mamncane, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Okay, I'm looking for questions now. Thokozani. Oh no, I've already answered this one. Did I miss other questions? Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, no, there are not any other questions. Okay, that's it. So I think for us, as we're coming to a close, we were just giving an overview. So these are not extensive and detailed rituals and rites of passages. And then it's important for you guys to cleanse, because cleansing as well, a physical cleanse, is so that, because angisho benwele ifele mnyama. So siyanhlambulula silethe ekhanyeni. We move you away from mourning into the light. That's what cleansing is post so sakpothula. So we are now bringing you back, and it's a way of reintegrating you back into the world again, because you were in isolation, you were at a retreat while you were reconfiguring, healing, and becoming one with yourselves again outside a loved one who's gone. So that's why you would have limited things, because they say when you are in the space, you are vulnerable. So that's why you would have limited interaction with the outside world. But ukuklambulula is so that you can return, because we are actually saying that life can now continue. Of course, it's not going to be normal, but we can continue with the new norm.
Yeah, it's also to assist you also psychologically, ukuthi now you are going back, you are transitioning, njengoba ugogo asho ukuthi you are going back to impilo yakho, and to assist you ukuthi njengoba you are cleansing, ukukhulula kwizinto obubuza ukusho ukuthi yebo, now isikhathi sesindlulile, we can now move on kwezinye izinto. Now we are allowed ukuthi ungakwazi uyokwenza ezinye izinto, uyohlangana nabanye abantu, uyabona, ukuthi ungabi namkingana noma uhlangana nabantu so that you are free to even do ezinye izinto othanda ukuzenza.
Yes. Baby, you gotta read Tobi's thing. It's very much in Zulu, so I can't see. I can only see Thokoza Koko Mkulu. Oh, Mkulu is not wearing his glasses. Where are your glasses? Uthi kunengoma kakhulu eculwayo.
Erika njalo enhloko yami.
Okay, I don't know. I think it's off topic. Okay. I thought it was something else. Yes. Okay, let's hear this, Chosen. Would there be an issue if one has their own way of wanting to be buried or mourned prior to the death? No, but remember we spoke about the essence. Don't move away from the core things. And even when you have a preference that you feel like it's so much, buza, cheka, state it down, but they will also still need to like for example with cremation, when you cross over, they'll have to do something to allow for the world of your ancestors to know that this is what has happened, or this is what's going on. Would one have to pasla for it? I think pasla and ask. Because transitioning is where we're all gonna go one day.
I think it's also best for people who have a preference of saying ukuthi when they've passed on, bafuna ukuthi izinto zabo zenze njani. It's also best ukuthi kube uwe othatha isinqumo sokuthi uzoyicelela kubantu abadala, you inform abantu abadala so that ungashiyi umsebenzi omningi nabantu abasele, uyabona. When you've phahla and ukwazi ukuthi bakuphendulile batheni bavume ini baleni, then you are able ukuthi u-explain nakubantu abasala ukuthi okay mina I had a preference kanje but njengoba ngicelile bavume 1 2 3 ngicela ningenzele kanje nakanje, so that abasalayo bangasali nomthwalo omningi ukuthi noma sebenzile sekuyiba bafuthi abanecala.
True. Thokoza Kokona Mkhulu. So indaba yokubuyisa umuntu endlini, may I get clarity on that? Well, the thing is that it differs, right? It differs with different cultures and practices. But ubuyisa umuntu endlini is not like we're just gonna go speak in. It's a whole ceremony. It's a whole weekend ceremony, and in that ceremony there are different steps and ritual rites that have to be facilitated. So you don't just go, there's also who can do it and who can do it. It's, the type of animal that's required, what are the other things that are required. So if it's something you do in the family, ask, otherwise consult, so you could see what would be the best, because we don't go so balande matune. Awuyiwe matune. Just saying. Yeah. Okay. I have a theory, it's a bit shaky, but I think it's what they live for. For clarity, I just said at random that if one person has passed away, they become your spiritual guide. Yes, that's the hope, but not everyone. Not everyone automatically qualifies. Being an ancestor is kind of like the highest form of achievement for us as Africans, because your presence will never cease to exist. So we know that you'll always be called, and that's why how we lived our life was in having in consideration of like, I need Gonje, I want to be Itlozelike, I want to be an ancestor, I want to be an ancestor. Yo, what if there's no alu and water provided after the burial? Okay, so what if, because we've seen some places where they don't place it. So before, just make sure that you just wash your hands before you but get home and do that for yourself, and cleanse yourself of that.
And there's also so many ways of doing cleansing for you. Abanye, they can go as far as buying the cleansing ekhaya leyo yaziyo ukuthi ekhaya iyenziwa when you come back from emathuneni, ngoba ikhaya nekhaya linento yayo, and ungaya kwezinye indawo bathi abakholela kulezo zinto, but it's just nje ukuthi usually kwizinto zabantu abamnyama senze ukuthi noma kubekwa amanzi ukuthi just abantu bageza izandla njengoba babuya endaweni, then wena bekungabe ikhona eyenziwayo ekhaya bufika ekhaya ungani mosogedini bakwenzele.
I know Ekaya, every time we came from Amatunin, we'd wash our hands before we enter the house. We'd wash our hands and sprinkle our feet with water.
And also there's what we call ukpolisa inyawo, especially when we are esimeni ngathi ebuye emngcwabeni and all that, especially mengabe endlini futhi kunomntwana omncane, uyabona bazothi umuntu upholisa inyawo uyafika ahlale kancane ngaphandle to cool off, uyabona, ukwehlisa sonke lesimo le-energy obuya nayo ngaphandle, ukuthi relaxa kancane, ukuthi nanoma uzongena endlini ngoba especially mekunosana oluncane, then ungangeni nayo yonke le-energy leyo obuya nayo leyo emathuneni olabo khona bekungcwatshwa khona.
So, my family does cleansings a few days after the funeral. Is this wrong? Maybe not really, because it depends who passes on, because some families do a cleansing immediately after. But I know Minakaya, for example, when it's somebody's child, we can cleanse, but they have to wait for 3 months. And if it's a partner, they wait a year before the cleansing happens. Because like I said, sometimes culture changes. They've changed it because when they leave it for too long, they've experienced too many misfortunes all at once. So they cut off the not cleansing process, because cleansing is part of mourning. But it's normally done at the end of the mourning period, but some people do it in between their mourning, depending on the circumstances.
And also abanye, they do these things because they know ukuthi mhlambe imindeni ihlala endaweni ezikude, yabo, and abanye bathi "Ayi, sizokwenza manje," and also angithi kunezinto esiziconfuse the cleansing and amaharav and all that, ukuthi kwenziwa ukuthi njengoba abantu bahlala kude mesibuya ekhaya sizovele senza amaharav, yabona, same time ngoba abanye kufanele babuyele mhlawumbe babuyele eGoli, sihlale Eastern Cape, then they can't just come after 2 weeks babuye futhi, yabo.
Circumstances.
Lezo
So
zinto.
Mkulu is basically saying circumstances also inform what needs to happen. So Conrad Adams is asking, what is an ancestor in a true African sense? That's a big question. I mean, I think then we're assuming that, anything else is not an ancestor. But when we say somebody is an ancestor, we're speaking about a guide, a guardian, a watcher, somebody who helps us, because Tina, we would then say, if Idlozi belongs to Imimoye Mibi, right, that needs to be cleansed. So like I'm saying that when we basically would say ancestor, in English, when we would have to say ancestor, it means we put you in highest form of regard. But not everybody who passes on just goes up and sits at the throne, as we were explaining earlier on. So it's just that there are no terms in English that breaks the different types of the ancestors as we would in our indigenous language. Because in our indigenous language, we would refer to different ancestral spirits in the terms that distinguishes their roles and where they are sitting at in the afterlife. And yes, we do, because we do those things. We do believe that some of the spirit of our loved ones do come back. So if you can say Africans believe in reincarnation, definitely. That's why they're like, right? That's where sometimes people get their grandfather's names. But also be clear on that. If you go watch our stream that we did Nomkulu about naming, that you don't just take a name. You have to ask for it, and there's a rituals that needs to be performed prior to one taking that name. No, that's Lefty. When you say because you stay firm, that's what Mkulu has said, that sometimes they've adjusted the times of cleansings because taking in consideration that we're no longer all staying in one place. I mean, if you are in the diaspora and you have to come bury someone, you can't come back again in 3 months for the cleansing. So it will be done as a way of accommodation, because the importance is the cleansing needs to be done. Because they will do the cleansing and say, but even though you are cleansed, but know that we are still in mourning, so you still can't do this, you still can't do that. Yeah, I guess you talk about how your Bible perspective changed how Africans do things. Actually, I think it's actually how people translated the Bible. Because some of these things, if you look at Leviticus, they're there. The things we do to Mona in Leviticus. I feel like people interpretation, I always say the Siri, which is the people who are meant to translate it or interpret it, how they interpret it is not within the context in which relates to us. And that's why it's important to also, find a place of worship and praise that speaks to your context. So you don't always feel like you need to choose between two worlds. Because at the end of the day, you were born in this body that looks like this because there are things that keep this body alive, even, after it passes. Okay, tribe, it's past our time, because I think I need to check because I might have a consultation and I've got some work tomorrow morning. So I do need to get my sleep. Thank you. Let me give a hug. Thank you, Siyabonga. Tribe, please ask Mkulu to come.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome when I'm available. Welcome. Kodwa ngiyabonga kakhulu for your warm welcome. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. And you could see that Mkulu has some deep insights. And like I said, so I just want to say to the tribe, Mkulu does speak fluent English. The teacher in him, Umkashwa, and Umkashwa is Unguni. So he would then resort to that. So I'm just saying to your Basutu or Sutu's like, oh my God, I want to book a consultation with Mkulu Mkashwa, but I'm not going to hear what he says. We are Sutura as Mkulu.
Yabuwa kibulele
Waba, I get
kyaba.
waba kilo.
Khanyan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes.
Uyamfundisa uthisha omkhulu.
Yeah, some Kulu can speak multiple languages and English. So do not think like, oh no, because the reason I like to bring Kulu because he's also one of the elders. So he's one of the senior consultants at the institute. So, if I'm not here, he's here as well. And yeah, and we appreciate your wisdom, your time as a tribe. And let's bring more topics, tribe members. As you know what Mkulu's fields of expertise are, pretty please do let us know where you feel Mkulu can come. And then we can be intentional, like he said, when he's available, because sometimes we are sebenza, because there's still other work that he needs to do as Godweni. But when he's around, and even today when I said, I feel like this topic, it would be so enriching. And you see the tribe members are saying, thank you, Kokono Mkulu. Siyabonga bantu abadala, thokoza mkhulu, Kokono Mkulu, first time joining, and thank you for being so informative. And some things sound better in Zulu. Some things sound better, guys. Honestly, as much as we can try, and we try because I know my tribe in the diaspora are trying to get it, but learn it like inyongo, guys. Uzomenge it inyongo. Hey. Hayi inestima ne
Kakhulu isithunzi
isithunzi sikhona yabona siqi unlike saying bye bye. So some things we do need to say Stembile, thank you so much. Every contribution counts, guys. We appreciate it. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the support. Thank you so much for tuning in. As do DM Instagram on Instagram topic suggestions for the next stream. Please, no dreams, no private consultations. We don't consult via DM, Manish. No, we do visual consultations. You will definitely see Umkulu.
Yes.
He does online, and I can see like this week you've been busy with online consultations.
Yes, I did one. Yeah.
And how's Mkasha coping with visual consultations?
It's we're getting there. Slowly but surely, we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're getting the hang of it.
Yeah. So when you come to Mkulu's consultation, we always say Mkulu takes long, hey? But because he's such a counselor, he counsels and he's a teacher. It's incredible and it's amazing.
I do prefer that.
Yeah, he prefers face
to face, but yes, we do visuals.
Yeah, but he does do visuals.
Yeah.
Mkasha is .com, baby. You just gotta do .com. It's .com. We just gotta go there. Thank you so much, tribe. Good night. Bye.